Okay, now, the first 9 chapters are sort of organized pretty well. This middle portion is not so organized. It's just sort of a random collection of pieces of good instruction. And we'll just go through some of them here until we get to number 22, chapter 22, and then there's the next part. So there's these contrasts: righteous living with foolish living, and then the second half of this is just like a idea, some ideas about exalting righteous living. Let's see. The first in chapter 10, we just go through some of these. Just talk about. It says, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers a multitude of sins. So that happens. But mustaches cover a multitude of upper lips. Apparently. So anyway, okay. So these 12 chapters, these 13 chapters, 10 through 22, are just collections of statements. They're not really organized according to theme. They're sort of randomly thrown together here. But that it doesn't diminish their importance. You get a few verses that are strung together, and then some verses, just little ones like, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all sins, a multitude of sins. That's there. The fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened. That's 10:27. Let's see. Where is it? Where there is no counsel, the people perish, but in a multitude of counselors there is safety. That's 11:14. Let's see. Where's one here? Talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is a faithful spirit conceals a matter. That's verse 13 of chapter 11. And so you get the gist of this. There's all kinds of little little sayings here that we can apply to our lives, not necessarily organized so much. In the fear of the Lord there is strong confidence. That's verse 26 of chapter 14. In labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads only to poverty. That means if you talk on the job, you could lose your job and wind up in the poorhouse, that kind of thing. Verse 15 has several things that you've probably heard. Soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Let's see. A merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. That's verse 13 of chapter 15. But by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. Verse 16. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure with trouble. That's a good one. 15, 16, you can remember these. 15:29, the Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. So that's, those are the kind of things that go on. Now the transition is in 16, there is most of these proverbs are they exalt righteous living. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. That's Proverbs 16:7. Verse 32 of 16, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He who rules rules his spirit better than he who takes a city. So that's and then the one you've probably heard before, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. That's verse 18 of chapter 16. So from 16 to 22, friend loves at all time, Proverbs 17:17. And a brother is born for adversity. So, these things are mentioned in these things. Wealth makes many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. If you have money, you might have a lot of people who want to get to know you. And verse 1 of chapter 20, wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. And then verse 20, and then this 21:1 says, a king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, like the rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes. So, and this is a good one. Verse 23 of 21, he who guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. So, there's all kinds of little statements here that go through this part. Train up the child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, his way. So that's verse 6 of chapter 22. So you get the gist there. Now, this next group is 30. There's like 30 of them. They come rapid fire from 22:17, the second part, through 24:34. They're like 30 descriptive statements, and they're all like the exhortation in this collection is like to apply your mind. It begins, incline your ear and hear the words of the wise and apply your heart unto knowledge. That's 22:17. And then it goes through these things, these wise sayings. It goes through these things like 22:23. It says, it warns you not to rob the poor. All right. In 29 of chapter 22, it gives you advice to be skillful. A warning not to be materialistic. 23:4 and 5. It says, don't overwork to be rich because of your own understanding. Stop. Will you set your eyes on that which is not? Riches certainly make themselves wings, and they fly away like an eagle toward heaven. So if you want money, chances are you're not going to have it for very long. So, not to move ancient boundaries, like don't remove the ancient landmark. Those things, the Redeemer are mighty. He will plead the cause. Don't steal fields. These are like business things. 23:13 and 14. Don't withhold correction from your child. If you beat him with a rod, he will not die. If you beat him with a rod, you shall deliver his soul from hell. Now again, that's the one that people use to have spanking. That's the spanking verses. People use that to justify it in some way. So anyway, that's for you to figure out. Don't envy sinners. That's in 23:17. Don't let your heart envy sinners, but be zealous for the fear of the Lord all the day. For surely there is a hereafter, and your hope will not be cut off. That's a promise of what's to come. Okay, the next one. The last part of 23 is probably the strongest declaration against wine that there is. And it says this. It just starts this way. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complaints? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? All these are rhetorical questions. Those who linger long at the wine, those who go in search of mixed drink. Do not look on the wine when it is red in the cup, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly. At the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things. Your heart will utter perverse things. Yes, you will lie down like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of the mast, saying, they have struck me, but it didn't hurt. They have beaten me, but I didn't feel it. When I awake, I may seek another drink. So that's, there's a whole, writing on strong drink and wine, and the wine that they're talking about here. The table wine that was used was really 4 parts water, 1 part grape juice that they used. So the very minimal kind of alcoholic content, but the kind that they're talking about is the inebriating kind, the stronger drink here, and it's very clear there. Who has woe? Who has problems? So you have that, not to be a drunkard. So that's the last part of that. That's the last part. These other ones, not to associate with drunkards and gluttons, and then listen to your father and your mother. Don't despise. Listen to your father who begot you, and don't despise your mother when she is old. That's a good one. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. So these are highlights from the wise sayings. Okay, now like I said, the first 24 chapters of these were pretty much organized by Solomon or for Solomon, and he collected them. But at the beginning of chapter 25, you see These also are proverbs of Solomon that the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied. So these ones that are not in the first 24 chapters say something about Solomon and maybe why he was turned away a little bit. Because in 29:18 it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. That is like one of the major verses. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And Solomon lost, towards his latter part of his life, he lost like his vision on what the mission of Israel was. The mission of being a world a communicator of the things of God to the whole world. And he got his heart turned away by many foreign women. So it says that. It says here in 25, it talks about kings here. It talks about kings, and here, the heart of kings is unsearchable, verse 3. It says here, do not exalt yourself in the presence of kings. Do not stand in the place of the great. For it is better that he say to you, come up here, than you should be put lower in the presence of your prince, whom your eyes have seen. So these statements concerning backbiting, that's one of these things. It is better to, concerning backbiting, it says, the north wind brings forth rain and a backbiting tongue and angry countenance. And then here's one of my favorite verses. This is repeated twice in the Bible. It is better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than in a house than in a wide room. In the King James it says, than in a house with a contentious woman. That's a good one. That appears twice. I think it appears in 21:9, and then it appears again here, 25:24. It's better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than to dwell in a wide room with a brawling woman. That's the way the King James read, a brawling woman. And it just speaks of this. It's better for you to be in a place that's narrow than to be open to a lot of things. Like when you're open in a wide room to a lot of things, then that you're open to the brawling woman. She's never got enough. And it's really talking about having a simplicity. When you're up on the corner of the housetop, you got to pay attention. You get to see a lot. You're out there in the elements maybe, but you have to keep your sense of balance. But when you're in a wide room with a brawling woman, there's always trouble. She's flying out of the closet every now and then, demanding more and more. It's a good thing to think about. And then in chapter 27, the first several verses, it really starts at all about relationships here, but 17 through 19, this is like an interesting thing. Like you have relationships that are built on iron, investment, and understanding. Now, just read this. You can look at this with me. Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Whoever keeps the fig tree will eat of its fruit, so he who waits on his master will be honored. As in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man. All right, so these three verses go together. You have in your relationships things that iron is something that's found in the earth. It's unrefined. It's strong. It's used to make steel. It's like, and there's things that are in people, naturally speaking, that are put there because of the will of God. So you're going to have people in your life that are going to have some things that are going to cause some sparks because you've got iron in you, they've got iron in them, and you are going to have some exchanges with that. And that's important for you to understand. Those exchanges are important. Don't think that some of the things that are in a person are all necessarily have to be worked out of them, or that it's your job to work it out of them, him or her, whoever that is. Iron sharpens iron. It's good for you to have someone in your life that's not, like I said, if you have disagreements, then you probably have a good relationship. If you're not having disagreements, your relationship is not so close. That iron happens like that. Now the next thing is the investment. What you put into something, the fig tree, you'll eat the fruit of it. You recognize the iron, the relationship you develop in terms of being with somebody, investing in it. This is a metaphor from from someone from the garden. If you take care of the fruit tree, then the fruit tree will feed you. If you take care of the relationship, then the relationship will feed you. The iron is good because it sharpens you, so don't go looking for someone that matches up with all of your likes. That's really boring. It's really much better to have someone who's like opposite. Trust me, it's really a lot more fun that way. There's a lot more heat sometimes, there's a lot more sparks, but hey, it's fun that way. And don't pick somebody that's just like you. It's going to be looking at that, wake up every morning and look at someone just like you. It's like, we got to be like compatible and all that. It's like, trust me. All right. I've been married almost 30 years. Trust me. It's like, it's been awesome. So, all right. As face answers into face, so a man's heart reveals. Okay. As in water, that's the big part. As in water. It doesn't say as in a mirror. It says as in water. Face answers to face. When you look into a pool and you see yourself there, when you're looking into somebody's face, you see maybe a reflection of yourself, but you got to remember that there's something deep behind those great big blue eyes that you're looking into. Face answers to face. Like everyone has a history. And like there could be some things at the bottom of that pool of history that surprise you. Just telling you for awareness. You'll look into somebody, but it's like might be hidden, but the heart will reveal it at some point. So iron, the fig tree, and the pool that you look into, those are three things that will govern your relationships very well. Don't try and get the iron out of somebody. Let God deal with that. Let the iron be something to strengthen you. Tend to the relationship will feed you. And remember, everyone brings something with them to every relationship. There's a big history behind people. And recognize that. Some of it may be very good, some of it may not be so good. But when you're looking into those eyes, remember there's something that the heart will reveal at some point in every relationship. So that's just good. Now, here's the next, chapter 30. I just like this because it's the formal teaching, like that little play on words. 4 kinds of sinners, 4 things that are never satisfied, 4 incomprehensible things, 4 unfair things, 4 wise though small animals, and 4 strutting beings. All in that chapter 30. We'll just go over the one because it's the 4 things are never satisfied. It's the most, where are they? Let's see, here it is. It's the 4 things that are incomprehensible. That's what we want to talk about. 4 things are never satisfied, but 4 things that are incomprehensible, too wonderful for me. 4 that I do not understand, and here they are. The way of the eagle in the air. Okay, that's been solved by science. We know how that happens. The way of a serpent on a rock. They've sort of figured out how that works too. The way of a ship in the midst of the sea. We know that, water displaces water. But, wow, the last one, no answers for it. The way of a man with a virgin, or the way of a man with a maid. Like, what? How does that happen? How does, a man look at that and, she's the one? It's like, how does that happen? It's a mystery. eHarmony.com is still looking for the secret for that. Devising all kinds of, surveys and things and tests and everything like that. I remember the one day, we were go to a Chinese restaurant and they have they put the placemat around you and they have these Chinese zodiac signs all around there, when you were born. And found out that I am a rat and my wife is a cat. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. Wow, And there's a joke there. She said, I should be having you for lunch. It's it's the way of a man with a maid. Like I said, iron sharpens iron. Don't be so willing to find somebody. It's much more interesting to be with someone who's different from you. But the other part here is there's four, the four. So, the way of a man with a maid, it's just like four unfair things. Three things that the earth cannot bear up. A servant when he reigns, that's just ridiculous. An untrained person when he's the ruler, that really, a fool when he is filled with food. It's really like, how does a fool get filled with food? A hateful woman when she is married, and a maidservant who succeeds her mistress. Like, these things are unfair. Like a maidservant who waits on the wife and then becomes the wife by knocking the wife out of the picture, however that happens. So those things are unfair. And then you can look at those. It's like the majestic things. The lion, which is the mighty among beasts. That's where you get the point that it's the king of the beasts. The lion there. A greyhound, a male goat. I don't quite know why a male goat struts around. They eat garbage, but a male goat likes to strut. So a greyhound likes to strut too. And then a king whose troops are with him. Of course, when the king has his army with him, he's going to strut. Yeah, we're ready for battle. So that's, those are just the formal teaching from this man named Agur, the son of Jakeh. And these are just sayings, they're just being honest about where they got this. These are like wise words from some of the cities that are around Israel. These aren't necessarily from Israel. Now the last chapter is the sayings of King Lemuel and a mother's advice. And then it's the last acrostic collection of thoughts related to a virtuous woman. Like Solomon or whoever collected these thoughts originally just tacked this on at the end to say, here's the great thing here's the right kind of virtuous woman is right here. So again, we give a little bit more. It's not for kings to drink wine, lest they give strong drink to him who is perishing and wine to those who are bitter of heart. And then open your mouth for the speechless, like the mother. It's a mother's advice to a king. His mother taught him this. He said, open your mouth for the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and the needy. That's another thing that a king should do, she says there. And it says, don't give your strength to women. Verse 3, don't give your strength to women, nor to ways that destroys kings. And then the last one is 22 verses related to a virtuous woman. Who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find her? And I like to look at this as there is no way to find a truly virtuous woman. Who can find her but Jesus Christ is making her? You can really do a great lesson on how the church operates. Jesus Christ is making the virtuous woman his bride, one salvation at a time. So the bride of Christ will be the virtuous woman. She can't be found, really, but she can be made by the Spirit of God. She can be, and she is being made on a personal level. There's a virtuous woman that's there that's being made that way by God. On a big level, on the grand level, there is a virtuous woman that is the church of God that is being made by the initiation of Jesus Christ. And it's interesting. This speaks to something here. It says, it just talks about how she works and and her lamp doesn't go out by night. It talks about all these things. All these things have meanings. And then it gets to this point here. It says, she opens her mouth with strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Strength and honor are her clothing. That is the clothing for the woman. If a husband has a woman, that is her clothing. It is the strength that is in the relationship. It is the honor that he gives her as someone in his life. That is the strength of the church. It is the salvation of Christ. It is the Holy Spirit. It is the honor that Christ puts upon his church. So she has strength and honor. She shall rejoice in time to come. We will rejoice. The church is going to rejoice in the time to come. A woman who understands the strength of the relationship she's in, if she's honored well by her husband, what that's going to do is going to bring rejoicing in the house throughout the life together. And then it says this, it's like kind of interesting. I like to bring this verse out when like people talk about like women should be silent and all that kind of thing. It says that she opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. As she opens her mouth in wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. It's like, you hear some of those kind of things. Women shouldn't be talking and doing this and everything. You can figure that out in your own mind, how that relates to the situations you are in. But God, does say this, like a woman who has strength and honor as her clothing can open her mouth in wisdom, and it's good. On her tongue is a law of kindness. And the end here, this last little statement, it says, charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. That means in the highest level, the gates are the highest level of the city. Like, so, I mean, charming things can be deceitful. Beauty will fade away, but the woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. That's the way the proverb ends. It's kind of interesting. All the way through this, it's like there's all kinds of, like Solomon is writing these proverbs. 1,000 women had some effect on his life as he collected these sayings, and he's putting these things there. So you have 22 statements there. Okay, now here's the closing part. What do we need to know? So these are the fundamental things that we need to keep. All right, fear of the Lord, it's the beginning of wisdom. Can't understand anything without that sense of awe and honor. That idea of honor, what do I like it? It's like reverent intimacy. It's like you want to reverence the intimacy you have with God. This next one is home is where hearts are made. So strong families are the thing that produce strong societies, because that's where the hearts are made, in the home. And fathers and mothers, they have a great responsibility. Be careful how you enter into that calling for your life. Children, have them wisely. Have them wisely. Be ready for that. Make sure you're ready for that. It's like, God can organize that, but pray about that. I would counsel you to pray. Like when to have children, how many children to have. That's good. You have great responsibility in this world. You think the things that are flying around now, think about a few years down the road, if God tarries, what is society going to be like? It ain't getting better. It's just getting more and more torturous, and the kind of influences that are flying at people. Okay, all right, come on. Why do we need to know those things? Well, there is a devil. He's a roaring lion, and he is projecting the deceptions that we heard. That. And without a vision, we perish. If we don't have a vision for our life, we perish. If you don't have a vision for it, If you don't have a vision for a MBC&S banquet, then no one comes. It's like no one comes, right, Mr. Castro? No one comes to that. You got to have a vision or the banquet will perish. You just put in all the things. If you don't have a vision for it, if you don't have a vision for something, then get one, or just realize that thing is going to die. And there's city life. It is. City life is, it's a big thing. I mean, Cain is founded the first city. And what did he do before that? Killed his brother. So Cain created a place, a society, apart from God, where people could come together. And, so just, I love, I'm a city boy. Don't get me wrong. I love Baltimore. I love living here. I know, there's parts of it that are terrible, sure. But, I love living in the city. I like the concrete. I like being where there's noise and everything like that. But city life does try to make truth fall in the street. Like it does try to get people to, to see. There are all kinds of deceptions, and they're sort of, because there's more humanity, just think about it. There's more old sin natures. What does that tend to? More sin. It's just a product of population centers. All right, so what do we need to do? Take heed how we hear. Take heed how we hear. I meant to say take heed how we hear and take heed what we hear, not take head. So sorry about that. Sorry if I didn't edit my own thing there. Take heed how we hear, take heed what we hear, and ask for wisdom. Just be bold about that. God is not afraid to give you the wisdom that you need. Now that verse in Romans 16:19 is the one that says, be wise concerning that which is good and be simple concerning that which is evil. That's what you pray for. You want to be wise concerning that which was good, and you want to be simple. And I'm not saying that naive is different from simplicity, but you want to be simple. You don't have to know a lot about sin to recognize it for what it is. If you get enough Bible in you and you get enough order to your spirit and your mind and your heart and your soul, you'll know what's wrong. And you'll see it a lot sooner than you would if you didn't have all that Bible in you. So ask for wisdom. God will give it to you. He's faithful in that one. Okay, why do we need to do this? The unveiling of wisdom preserves me. The unveiling of wisdom preserves my family. The unveiling of wisdom preserves my city. And the unveiling of wisdom preserves a nation. So what can you do for the United States of America? What can you do for the country of Sweden? What can you do for the country of Finland? What can you do for the country of Russia? What can you do for the state of Maine? What can you do for beautiful Baltimore City? You can allow God to reveal wisdom to you, because it is the best thing that could happen to a city. Righteousness exalts a nation. So when the reason a nation has been exalted in any situation, it's because of the amount of righteousness being exercised in those people. More proverbs being practiced will promote godly societies. And that's the answer for us. So I would suggest that you get to know Proverbs, you embrace it, you embrace the wisdom there. That's the right kind of relationship. Romance wisdom, let her speak to you. Let her speak to you again. Let her speak to you again. Learn the essence of reproof and hear these things again and again, phrases this way, that way, and I think you'll find out that your life is full of truth and you won't face so many of the consequences that you'd face without truth. All right? So that's tonight's lesson. Next week, Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon, and then we'll be finished with this part of the Bible. All right, Lord, we thank you for Bible Survey Part 1. We thank you for your lessons in life. Lord, we thank you for all that you communicated to a man like Solomon and all that you have left us with. Lord, just ask you to bless our night. Cover us as we go. Protect us. Keep us safe. In your name, amen. All right. Thank you. Have a great night.